I have a son and a daughter and a son. I try to say it right because she's the oldest. My daughter and son. But I always say to them, just try stuff. Like, you have no idea what you're good at until you just step into a lane and see what happens. And you 6 months to a year, like you don't enjoy it. Take another. I said, right now you're young. This is when you need to be out there trying stuff. You don't want to be 60.
Yeah.
And
yes,
try
you
to
do. Yes, you do.
Well, you know, I say there's no time.
Trying everything.
Well, I think with a longevity focus,
it's
like
never ending.
Yeah, with like this shift though to the ability to live longer. Like I almost feel like we're gonna have. What I'm thinking about is during this phase of my life, I may run a 20-year phase where I decide to focus on something else, right? And then maybe another 20-year phase, because everybody thinks, especially when we're young, we think so. Like this week, this month, you know, this quarter, right? Next year, it's hard to take yourself out. You know, oh, when I graduate college, right? Or when I do this, my life is going to change when this happens. I'm starting to go, you know, maybe these next 2 decades, I'm going to focus on this, and then I may hit 2 decades where I want to get passionate about this other thing, right? So if we start thinking about it from that other angle, it kind of becomes interesting.
But also, when we were kids, though, 50 was old.
It was.
I'm 42 now. And I feel young. You know,
I know. I'm with it. Something that I loved because we talk about it a lot on our show, and one thing with the education system we always say that there's no teaching about discovering you.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about you know, math, science, and history, and teaching you how to work in the system that they have created. But you learn nothing about discovering who you are as a person, and it takes so much time to get there. And then your brain is not fully developed until on average around 25, 27 within that. So you're trying to make decisions at 18 and 19, what you're going to do with your life, and your brain isn't even fully developed yet.
Yeah, you're right.
And again, they're not teaching you on like self-discovery and learning, because I love when you were saying, you know, you didn't know who you was, so you went through those teenage years of being somewhat volatile at times. And I think we all go through that because you don't, like you get feelings, you got emotions, you don't know how to deal with them, and you haven't been taught to deal with them. And it depends on the support system, you know, what type of support you have, and if your parents or your people you're close with, if they haven't learned how to deal with their emotions, then you don't have anyone to go to. And so now it takes longer to get there, and I commend you on it.
It shouldn't take longer, but it's purposely put. I was a school teacher, and it's purposely done that way, so you don't have time to have self-discovery. By the time you get out of high school, then they want you to work. You know.
No, I think it's definitely it's definitely a system that is designed to train you to be an employee. And to confine you to a box. So I really, you know, there's that self-discovery part, and I still do that to this day, you know, probably more so, but I describe it sometimes as, because people like, I still have my moments. It's something I work on daily, right? How do you control that energy, the negative energy, the temper, the whatever you want to call it, right? How do you control that person, that other person inside of you that wants to act in a certain way? The difference is that at the earlier ages, I didn't attempt to control it. I didn't understand that I could. I didn't think I should. Actually, in the environment I was in, it was probably encouraged for me to be more that way, right?
Yeah.
And the people around me, not their fault, but the people around me, it served me well to be that way, I thought, right? And then by the time I could breathe again, right, when I could actually catch my breath and breathe, like and think and process, you're right. It's 25, 26. And really, I tell people it was 30 years old. Like, it was like by that point, I was like, all right, wait a second. What? Like, you know, you could really, like, what in the world are you, like, you could just have an out of body experience. Like, you have your mind and kind of just analyzing what you're doing and go, wait, why are you doing that? Right. But it took that whole process was hell. I tell my wife all the time, we got 3 boys and they've been raised. I was raised, I'm not saying I was raised in a bad way, but my children were raised differently than I was raised, a different environment, and different. They're gonna have a different set of challenges, obviously. But I became extremely violent. Extremely. If you put me in a violent situation, I exemplified that quickly, and I don't think they have that. I hope they don't. But my son's 12 and gonna be 13 in November, and that's about when it started for me.
Yeah.
So he's sweet, and soft.
Well, he doesn't have the
respectful.
trauma you had.
Yeah, he didn't have that, and I had a lot of it. So
Is he in MMA? Because I heard you say
he does. I purposely. I've never spanked my kids. Again, this is a personal thing, right? So I had. Thankfully, I was older when I had children. Jess and I were together 9 years before she got pregnant with Daniel, so I was able to mature a little bit. But I was smart enough to know about myself that I did not have the ability to spank to deter a behavior versus spank out of anger.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't hit the kids, right? I'm not judging people that do. I'm just saying, like, when I was younger, when you hit me, it taught me to be violent to others. Like if you want to discourage a behavior, you hit me. So when I want to discourage a behavior in someone else, I hit them. And I didn't understand how it's okay for an adult to hit a child to discourage a behavior, but it's not okay for a child to hit another child or another adult to discourage a behavior. Yeah. So, I took it very literally. And, the outlets I had, the MMA and the boxing and all that stuff, that helped.
Okay.
Because I felt less threatened. I became confident enough to feel less threatened in certain environments where I could show some restraint. But it was more so just because I didn't feel threatened. Right. At what point I felt threatened, the problem is that I caused more damage. Mm-hmm. Right. So it was kind of like I was able to show some restraint because I could acknowledge that this person was just running their mouth versus they were an actual threat to me. Mm-hmm. But when they became an actual threat, it was worse.
Yeah, because you could take it to a
whole different level. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. It's not a brag thing at all. Just from any standpoint, you play any sport, you do anything, you commit time to it, enough time, and you have somebody else that has no experience, and whatever that thing is, whether it's chess or basketball or football or fighting, wrestling, right? They're a fish out of water, so it's just not apples to apples. They can be strong and aggressive and give a lot of heart, but it doesn't really. That only accounts for so much.
It does. I like that what you're saying with the restraint, because friends of mine who fight and stuff, it's the same thing. And you see it. You've been in the situation where you're out and a club or whatever type of the environment is, and you always have the ones running off. I'm never concerned about those. No. It's the ones who are quiet. I've told her that the ones who are quiet, those are the ones, because you don't know, and they're the ones where they go from 1 to 100.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like that. Yeah. But it's not until you push them to that point. They'll just sit there.
Yep.
And I've seen friends of mine sit there, and I had one friend, we was growing up, and he was like that. He'll talk, he'll go back and forth a little bit. When he stopped talking, that's when I got concerned.
Yeah.
Where he used to
I was gonna say that's
quiet.
The other is when somebody's a talker, but then they shut up.
Yeah.
Then you go, okay, wait a second. See, I grew up that way. So like we have different like venues. We got clubs and nightlife. We got a spot, Limelight in Jacksonville. We have big events, right? And when I was younger, I used to like to get more hands-on and more involved with security and things like that in our businesses. But I got really, really adapted at watching your hips and your shoulder and your body language, right? Like, so you can, I can see if you're a threat based on the way you're acting towards me, like the way you're coming at me, your energy. But the other thing is I can see if you're squaring up to do something, right? Like in your hips and your shoulders, a lot of these other things are indicators that something's getting ready to happen way before you actually start to punch, right? Or kick or whatever it is you think you're gonna do, throw a bottle. So I don't know, but so my kids though, just to be sure that I didn't get them too aggressive, they've been in Taekwondo. 2 of the 3 are black belts. A youth black belt. They've been in it, and my youngest they started at I think the earliest you could be in is at like 3 years old or 4 years old. Punching balloons, things like that. My youngest Cam, he'll be 7 in May. They let him start at 18 months old. They let him start earlier because the brothers were in. Yeah. Again, punching balloons, basic stuff, more very, very light. But it's more about self-discipline, self-respect, honor, more self-defense related. As far as my opinion of Taekwondo, a lot of people that are in Taekwondo, awesome kicks, a lot of hip mobility, open hips and flexibility, things like that. Less attack, but my intention was to keep them in that until what point we got that base, and then maybe start adding in other things, right? So like my 12-year-old Daniel's, now I'll start to put my weight on them, and they all know, like I'll wrestle, I'll dig my head into, even my 6-year-old, like I'll dig my head in a little bit, and his temple a little bit, just so he starts to feel it. You know, just like just very lightly, like we're wrestling. And my 12-year-old's starting to get. I mean, I feel him. Like when he gets aggressive, he's starting to. I can tell it's about to click.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to give them a positive outlet for that.
Yeah.
But that's what that's about. So yeah, they do that, and then it served me well once I got my shit under control.
Yeah.
Right. And my goal is not to hurt anybody. My goal is to make sure I protect the people I care about, protect myself, make sure I get home. Yeah. But I also want the other person to get home too.
Yeah.
Right. Unless they force me to, they're going to get home as well. Right. They may not be happy, but they're going to get home. Right. So that the goal is everybody get home safely. Because, in the moment we all get emotional, and maybe they're drinking, maybe they're whatever, maybe they're friends, they're acting out. My goal is for everybody to get home. And I try my best to keep my hands up and be like, hey man, listen, tomorrow's another day. You can come back. And, I try to just de-escalate as much as I can. And this also is a really good point for me to switch into a defensive where I'm starting to block shots or whatever. Right. So, and then where you got to watch me is if I cross and do like this, because I'm also turning sideways, I'm stepping back, I'm gauging distance, and I'm setting up. So here to a fighting stance is one move, right? So if I start to, there's little things like, okay, and if I see somebody else doing it that's a counter from me, I know, okay, they halfway know what they're doing, right? So I'm watching that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because it has become
taken if he goes like this. Like, okay, what's happening? What's going down?
If you see people turn sideways and start to, because now it's more common. It didn't used to be so common.
No, it didn't.
Now, and I'm not saying they're dedicating to your craft is a different thing than you went and took a few months of lessons. But all it takes a few months of lessons, that makes a difference, right? Against somebody that's not had any. Right, you'll get some of those basic things down.
Just with the basics in boxing and just learning how to use your body to throw a proper punch.
Yeah, punch through the thing and set it.
I know. I put my son in boxing just for to have an understanding of. I remember talking to him first, saying, "You're not going to box to learn how to just fight. It's the discipline. It's all the things that come with it, and if you get in a situation where you have to defend yourself, I wanted to ensure that he could defend himself. But that's the last resort. And he's like me. He's very calm, reserved type nature. So it takes a lot. Like you have to physically threaten them. Words are not going to do it.
Yeah, I agree. They shouldn't do it.
Right? And no, it shouldn't. And I'm like that. With words, I'm like, or whatever. But I'm like you. I'm one where if you get too close, I'm looking at you differently. And if you're going to reach out or so, just anything, because I'm not. I don't want to escalate something because I'm like you, where we should just walk away from it. Especially as you get older, you have so much more to lose.
I agree with that.
It's not when you're 6. I remember telling my son before he turned 18, I would talk to him about going out and being at parties, and I said, right now you're still considered underage, and it's like, he's still learning. It's almost like it's still cute, the behavior.
Right.
I said, well, you turn 18, you're a man now.
Whether you're really a man or not, they're gonna treat you like one.
They treat you like one. So when we did the boxing, I did that, and he's left-handed, so it was a little different. So like that southpaw. But
catch you off guard.
But I remember I was listening to you talking about with your 12-year-old, because I remember my son, we played ball a lot, and he gets aggressive. And we're playing ball. He's throwing elbows. And it
leaning
switches.
in, put that shoulder in.
And we're about the same. He's 6'2". We're about the same height now. He's just smaller. But when he takes his shirt, he always takes his shirt off. When I know when he takes his shirt off, he's about to turn physical. And I love it, because I want to play physical with him like that. So
it's a good outlet. It's a good outlet.
It is. And I mean, we're throwing forearms and everything.
Awesome.
His body is all on me as I'm backing him up. I mean, it gets good, but it's a good release for both of us. So I love that you did it, because I'm like that. Before he moved out, when he would walk past me in the hallway, sometimes I would just bump him with the shoulder or I'd grab him or something. He'll be like, Dad, I'm not trying to wrestle, because I always be wanting to wrestle.
Yeah, I like it.
And we
yeah.
would wrestle all the time. But once he got into high school, he didn't care to wrestle with me anymore. It's like he got too cool.
Yeah, I hate that part. You know, I did that in my family, and you know, and then I've come around. I tell all my brothers, my father, my mother, I tell them I love them every day, and I don't care. You know, and I could tell my youngest, you know, 2 of my brothers, you could tell, oh yeah, I love you. You know, it's still like that. No, man, I love you, bro. I love you.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not looking forward to that with my kids, because I know it's coming. I'm not, you know, it's not gonna be cool anymore to hang out and love. But you know, it is what it is. So you know, I'll deal with it. But
It is.
But yeah, I'm just trying to raise sons that are able to survive whatever environment they're put in, intelligent, but can defend themselves,
Exactly.
and then and just sons that are going to live, right? Because a lot of my friends are dead, and if they're not dead, the one during that period they're in prison,
Yeah.
and if they're not dead or in prison, they're drug addicts.
Wow.
You know, like so,
Small
like if
town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you?
this was in well, my dad was in the military, so military base after military base, but
So you moved around a lot.
yeah, but we got stationed, and his final kind of retirement gig was Ashburn, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yep. So
That's where I grew up too. So.
Is that
That's where
how
you all
you
met.
know
Yeah,
each
yeah,
other?
yeah.
Okay. You didn't meet fighting.
no. he was a scrapper too, though.
Yeah.
Ah.
I grew up
Yeah.
poor, so I kind of had to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I'm a girl dad though, so it's a very different experience.
Yeah.
And I'm also an old dad. You know, I was 36 when we had my daughter.
Oh wow.
But she's great. She's super smart. She's left-handed. But she's more of an artist and an intellectual kid. So she's a mental athlete.
Nice.
She's not super coordinated with her feet. Her hand-eye coordination is great. Her feet are a little different. She's not real confident on her feet, but she's very coordinated. She plays the drums. She does good with that, and she loves to learn new things. And she loves art. She loves to. Her favorite thing is, you know, drawing and writing.
Okay.
She loves to create storybooks. And
That's nice. How old is your daughter?
she's 6.
6. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But she's a bright kid. She scored 90th percentile in math and
Nice.
99th percentile in reading and writing.
She gets that from her mother. Is that? I'm just playing.
You gonna get him in trouble.
I told you earlier he was an asshole, so I pre-warned.
Hold on, I like it. Go ahead and answer the question. Wait, Danielle, zoom in. Hold on. All right, go ahead, answer the question. Go ahead.
Danielle's smart. Yeah.
Good answer, I
No,
guess.
I'll
Good
just
answer.
mess.
She's a great mom too.
No, she is. Yeah. Neil's an intellectual, so I don't think it's a fair comparison.
Yeah.
I think she's intelligent compared to other mothers.
She is.
And to other
She's a great mother.
Yeah.
And a great wife.
Neil's a autodidact. Neil is constantly educating himself too. So it's
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
There's no
that's-
ceiling.
Addicted
no,
to
no,
learning.
yeah.
Me too.
That's how it should
I
be.
will research something in a minute, and sometimes I go too far in.
Yeah.
And go down that
I kind
rabbit
of like
hole.
it though. I like
I have
it.
to
but-
come out. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you
okay.
come out and you're like, what? Wow.
Come out, you feel exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it though.
Yeah,
I like
it's
it.
good.
Yeah.
You said something earlier about the school systems and having to find your own way, and it was that way for me too. I was very bored through school, but and it was tough being one of the poor kids. I wasn't a weak poor kid though. I would handle myself, so I wasn't bullied too bad. But you get picked on a lot and stuff. I've got some bits about the reason I look the way I look is just bullying gone right.
Yeah. Going right.
It's self-defense.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, it is a very cookie cutter program, and there, there's some level of it where there's a lot of people, so you kind of there's some understanding.
Yeah.
You get this big bureaucratic system, and it can only be so productive or efficient.
So-
but like with it would be nice to see a more Montessori type school system.
Yeah.
I would like that.
And my daughter, she's in a private school, but it's still a more traditional school. It's a good school though, but at home, I give her access to, and fortunately, I'm in a position where I have the resources to do that. But I give her access to lots of different things, so she has, and I pay attention to what she's interested in. So the things she's interested in, I encourage those things, and encourage creativity and curiosity, and if she wants to learn something or try something, I help her navigate that thing, and she has those resources, and that's really, it would be great to see everyone have those resources. You know?
It would be. In school, I just didn't understand. I didn't understand what we was doing. I was literally, I can remember kindergarten, going the first day I was excited, and then the second day my mom woke me up and I told her we already did kindergarten yesterday. I don't understand.
After one day?
Yeah.
She was
next?
done. Yeah. You knew the writing on the wall.
At 6 years old.
At 6, yeah. I love it when she brings that story up all the time at
awesome.
family functions. But it was really hard for me from kindergarten through 12th grade, and having an entrepreneur spirit.
That's the thing, yeah.
I was just looking for ways to always make money while I was in school, so I wasn't focused on the grades or whatnot. I did is bare minimum.
But you did the bare minimum and still did well.
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's that entrepreneurial. It's like you gave the effort that was required just
I could just go ahead and
get
through.
I had to do that.
Yeah.
So
and that's how I ended up in college too, because I'm competitive.
Yeah.
And when I realized my senior year, I realized people their names were going up on the bulletin board, like Edmund Lindsay going to Wake Forest. And so I was like, oh, shoot, okay, what do I need to do to get on the board?
Yeah.
You know, I can't be left behind. And so I went to my guidance counselor like, hey, I need to go to college. And he was like, I didn't think you was interested in college.
Right. I had the same experience. Yeah.
Really? And I was like, well, we're going to do it. Let's see what we can do. And so I ended up going to college and graduating, getting a degree, and that was weird too. You know, my parents was like, "We didn't think you was." I was one of the first people in my family to get a degree, a college degree,
That's awesome.
and I did not give two boops about getting one. Yeah, so it just kind of fell in that order. But I never wanted to work a 9 to 5. I never seen myself going to a job every day until I retired. Like that was creepy to me. It felt just like school, because I'm like, I've been in school since kindergarten to the 12th grade. Now I'm in college, and now you want me to go work?
We already did work yesterday. What am I going to do?
You gotta do this every day.
Mom, we did that already.
Single
You should call
again.
your mom and say, you should be like, Mom, I had to do this yesterday. I mean, the kindergarten flashbacks here. It didn't end well. It did not end well.
It's like, what did I sign up for? You know, getting on this planet and signing up to do stuff that you want me to do, you know?
So, I don't know. Do you have children?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
I have 2 boys.
2 boys. And they're still school or they're out of school?
They're in charter school. My oldest, I kind of was in this midlife crisis with him because of me not giving school my all. That's what I projected on him. So he is so dedicated with school to the point where he's not doing good. He's like, oh God, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to bring him out of that and give him a different perspective. But my youngest, he's more like me. He was like, he's always been rebellious in school. Like, I'm not doing the test today. In first grade, he didn't want to do a test.
Yeah.
And they was like, no, you have to do the test. And he was like, I'm not doing the test. And I ended up having to come to the school. Me and my dad actually went to the school and was like, Noah, why aren't you doing the test?
I kind of like that. And I know it's not acceptable behavior, but I like it.
Yeah, I did too. Because
It's independent.
It's independent,
very
right?
independent. He doesn't go with the flow. He doesn't go with the flow at all. And at that point in my life, I was a full-time entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So he got a different mommy than my oldest.
Yeah,
So,
I think you need both of those. You got to be able to exhibit both of those, and then unfortunately, at some point, until you can make the rules, until you can be the architect of your own life, you got to play by them.
Yeah.
And that's what I wish somebody would have told me.
That's what I tell my daughter.
Maybe my mom and dad did tell me. I just didn't hear it.
That's exactly what you tell them, and they get it. They're like, look, just go to school. You got to get up in the morning and go to school. It ain't gonna last forever.
So he was talking about we've got this. I'm not a fan of the school system. I'm not so my bachelor's degree. Technically, I dropped out of school. I actually got expelled, if we want to be technical, fighting. And but I got fights over and over. It was a lot. And my junior year, I got told to leave or they were going to expel me. And the way it was going to work out was I was going to fail my junior year, but where I was coming back a year later, I would also fail again because I wouldn't have gotten enough credit. And then I would have had to start the next in the fall. So it would have put me way, way, way behind or leave. And so I left, and all I had to do at the time, I think I was tied for 12th. My top 12 people were tied for first. I think I was in 12th place in my class, and basically all I had to do was go take a senior English, right? Because I had everything done except the senior English. So all I had to do was go to the community college, take a senior English, So I took their, English 101, their introductory English, counted as my senior credit, got my high school diploma. They refused to let me on the property. Eventually, years later, but couldn't walk out to school, couldn't come back. So I ended up graduating early, and wasn't allowed back on campus. I got a high school diploma, wasn't allowed to walk with the class, which is fine.
His mom was a teacher, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm telling you. But
she's like, what did I do wrong?
no, I was volunteer. Yeah, they, it could have my life could have went very differently. So there's some blessings in there for sure. There's a lot of stories that things could have ended very differently for me. But my mom, out of guilt with my mother, I just I was going to school, but really because she was a strong woman with 4 boys to raise.
All boys.
All boys, yeah. And so I went to school, but I didn't really go to school. I didn't want to go, so I wasn't really going, right? And the end result was that I just quit, right? Eventually, I was always an entrepreneur. I was making, I broke $100,000 a year. I turned 19.
Nice.
So I didn't see value in the school or the education. And then at some point, my life shifted, and I could breathe, and I could focus, and I could think. And I was like, wait a second, like I'm an autodidact. I like to read. I like to learn about these things. It was just the things that I was learning about. So even the bachelor's degree, that level of education, I got that at Pfeiffer. I'd say 80% of those classes, 85% didn't challenge me, and they weren't things I was interested in.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to the master's level and I got to really dial in, and at a different institution, with professors that I really valued listening to them. Like when I got to that, then I was like, oh, okay, wait a second. I like this. So
That's
I think the problem was, for me, I should have been in a different environment. And I think these schools are built to create employees, right?
No,
and mindsets, right?
That's what Rockefeller did.
Yeah.
He has the famous quote where he says,
I'm reading a book on Rockefeller right now.
A nation of workers,
That's
not
right.
thinkers.
That's right. So I think I'd have been, I think for me, so my children aren't in a public school system. They were originally, there were some things, and I was like, we're just not doing that. Right now they're homeschooled.
Oh, wow.
And I think eventually what's going to happen is they're going to go, we just travel a lot. We live in multiple places, and I'm trying to wrap my head around, but they are going to go into a private school. And I grew up, I see value in my children being around other children that aren't rich or wealthy or whatever term we want to use. However, I don't want to subject them to that school, to the school system, not to the children in the school system, to the educators in that thing, because of what they're trying to teach. So like for me, I go look at the wealthiest people in America, their kids aren't in public schools. And I don't believe it's because they want to avoid other public school children. I think it's because they're learning something different, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you start to get in the private school, the charter school, it's set up, it's different, right?
So different.
Well, also you want to find out what your kid's good at, and whatever that child is good at, they should be pushed in that direction.
Right.
You shouldn't make it. If a kid's not a math kid, then why would you make them do math? They're not good at math.
Well, I mean, they just
don't
need
have a
to be
math brain.
sufficient at math.
Yeah.
Right.
But why do we all need to be in calculus, right? I actually love math, but if you're an artist, right, you should be sufficient in math. But if you're leaning more towards art or more towards science or more towards this thing, like I think that's that Montessori, like, and also, why do I have to learn at the same pace or at the same time? The exact same, like you and I can excel at different things, but we have to. We're expected to sell at the same thing at the same time. But our development might be different. Our development might be different.
Right, and you're looked at as if you're not smart, if you're not on the same level as other students, and I think that comparison, it hinders the growth of the person, because like as an adult, when we're all growing on different levels, you may get this lesson, it takes you 10 years to get this lesson, take this other person 2 years to get this lesson, but it doesn't mean anyone is better than the other. It just took you time to learn your lesson. And but when you are in an environment where you feel like you're being judged because you're not learning as fast, you're going to shut down. And so you shut down so many times, then you're blocked off to even being open to learning anything. So it's very, I've seen so many kids. I was a school teacher for around about 12 years. And I've seen so many kids just give up. And you could tell, it's like when you see them in kindergarten, they're bright. And then by the time they get to the third grade, the light is dwindling.
You know, that's the thing I think about too a lot is when I see people that are homeless or whatever, you know, there are a lot of people in society that are incompetent. You know, there's a lot of people in society that have lower IQs and they don't have the mental capacity to really make it in life.
And I don't think you're saying that in a derogatory sense. I think you're saying their natural ability is
they have a diminished ability, and we have no safety net for those people.
Yeah,
it's because I went to school with a lot of those people, you know, and I remember those kids.
Some of them were your family. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
But some of those kids, you know, they were really sweet kids, like you said, but then they didn't have the cognitive ability to really excel in life or anything, and now their lives aren't great, you know, or they're pretty bad.
And the majority of our homeless population.
And
with special needs.
And it's a shame because they're just people like us, and they just need some help, you know. And we technologically we have the resources and the capabilities to do better. But we just don't.
I used to teach special needs. After I finished with Gifford County Schools, I went over to GTCC, and it was a program to assist the special needs students it was like a gateway into college. But all of the special needs students that I would have, they thought they graduated high school, but they didn't. It was a certificate of completion. And so
they finished.
Yeah, but nobody tells the parents, and nobody so they're thinking that, I'm about to go to GTCC, and it was like, no, you have to pass the GED test before you get into these classes, the GTCC classes, and they're like, but I got my diploma, and then I have to say, no, you got a certificate of completion. So the way that's set up already, it just hurts their heart because they really want to go and have higher education. And then you have the students that they're really smart at, like if you give them your birthday with their date, they could tell you the day you was born. It's just like different parts of their brain. It's very
strengths.
Active on a different level, but nobody ever honed in on those skills. That we was trying to make them like normal people, and they have these other abilities. But some of the students, they made it through that gateway and passed GED and was able to use their skills. But it's a lot of them, they can go and work at Walmart, and they can go and do the things that necessarily we don't want to do, and they're doing it with a smile on their face, but you can't do that if you don't have a high school diploma. So that's how they end up on the street.
Well, I think AI has the potential to help a lot with some of these issues if it doesn't destroy us all. But I think I can see in maybe even just in a few years, school systems being set up where the AI is the teacher, and you're in. You could physically be in the classroom, or you could be in VR, or you could be in the classroom with a pair of AR glasses, and so you could have an AI as an instructor. So AIs today, I don't know if you guys are up on that type of technology, but the AIs today are more intelligent than most humans, and you can have better conversations with AI today than you can with most humans. And they outscore us on everything just about.
Well, that makes sense because with customer service is terrible nowadays.
It's going to be great soon.
The AI, bring the AIs on.
But see, you could have this AI instructor in your class, and say you have 30 people in the class. Well, there's 30 people in the class. There's one instructor. Once the instructor gives their, goes over the lesson and all that stuff for the day, and they pass out the work, or the work is passed out. If a student's having trouble, or say you have 10 different students that are having different issues, well, that one instructor is individually helping each one of those students one-on-one in that same classroom period. Because that AI can speak to millions of people simultaneously at the same level. So I think that solves a lot of... And
this is happening now?
Oh, yeah. Oh, now, not in the educational system, but it's that level of intelligence, and it's exponential. So it's about to hit a level that
they just released
we can't even comprehend.
There's a Harvard, I think a Harvard review. They just released a report that said that the ChatGPT, the 4 or whatever, the newest one,
the one that's out now.
That
that's nice.
You can give the prompt for your paper, for it to write your paper, and as long as you're specific that it can write the paper to where it doesn't violate the plagiarism rules, and it can do any
That's
paper,
amazing.
any paper at any college level. And said something, I think it was like they did it. They tested, did a 15-page paper that, and also it passed the guys, the accounting. Was it? Remember the professor?
Yeah, it's just basically, he had the hardest, one of the most difficult accounting tests in the university system, and he said, I will make a bet that your AI model cannot pass my test until 2029 because it's so difficult.
Yeah.
And it aced it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And did it.
And he lost a bunch of money.
It wrote that Harvard paper. It wrote I think it was 15 or 25 pages, something like that, and it wrote it in like I think it was like 63 seconds or something.
Yeah,
start
a few
to finish.
seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it's
long enough to and it scored a 99.8 or something. Like it was just like, but no. So you have, when you type now and you upload your essays at the college level, typically they run it through a third party system that checks for plagiarism, right? With no detectable plagiarism, right? So it's like,
so now they can run it through an AI system though and detect AI, except if you adjust the AI and you can have the AI write it as a human and it's undetectable.
So everybody that's going to get degrees, I mean, because
Well,
my degree, I totally cheated to get my degree. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Let's make sure we edit that out.
No, you could go ahead and let that
you
ride.
were resourceful.
I was very resourceful,
Yeah.
except for my major was video production. So that's what I love to do. So my focus was on broadcast and video and doing
Oh, our
small.
cameras glitched when you said that. I didn't get that. I didn't get you saying you cheated. Oh no.
But everything else, I was like,
But
you
it's
can get people to write
what
your
I mean,
papers
what's
and
life?
things.
It's the cheat code, right? Like
Yes.
I think solving problems, cheating necessarily to me might just be delegation, right? It's an exhibition or a display of a different skill.
But that's what I think. I'm
so-
very skillful.
Yeah,
You know?
I mow the lawn at all of my
That area.
properties every week, right? Because I delegate, right? I'm paying for the service to be done.
Right.
I'm creating all these jobs. I'm doing all these things, right? But
That's a good point.
I don't. I've got all these things that take place, and I'm kind of like when I say, the architect, like I'm the one designing the system and all the people that function within it. So I take credit for that. But on some level, that could be designed. That could be, you could say, oh well, he's cheating.
Well, so with
It's like if I'm in the education, if I'm trying to be an educator and I hire this guy because he's the best at math, and I hire you because you're the best at writing, and I hire, like, to me, I'm going to go, well, you know what? That's an intelligent, I'm going to hire that person.
But that's
what I would think. I'm going to hire that guy.
Yeah.
To me, that's how you build. You build your team like that.
Yeah.
that's how we've always
Yeah.
worked. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have been a person that did not know to do that. With being an entrepreneur, I was trying to do everything myself.
Most
You can.
of us start that way. Yeah.
Yeah, we all start that
and
way.
you will get burnt out real quick.
Trying to do it all.
When you find somebody that is really good at the things you hate, and they feel like all the things I don't want to do, I want the guy that does the things I don't want to do. If you find that relationship, your life gets better.
Yes.
Yeah.
You actually feel guilty sometimes you're not doing it, and they feel guilty that they're not doing what you do, and it works great because you realize that I've got a friend, and I tell him all the time. He's like, what can I do? I just feel like I'm not doing enough. He's like, I can come help you do this. I was like, no, man, you don't understand. I like what I'm doing.
Right.
I don't need your help to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What you're doing is the highest value thing in my life because that's the thing that I don't want to do. So just
Right.
keep doing what you're doing, and it allows me to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't need your help. Appreciate it. You don't want me to come help you. I don't want you to help me. I want you to do your thing. I'm going to excel at my thing.
We all have our strengths.
We all have our strength.
Yeah.
And
That's the thing.
Stay in your lane.
yeah, man, that's what and he asked me, are you sure I can't come help you? No, just do what you're going to do.
But
And
go ahead.
well, I was just going to say with the strength, it used to be where they used to always say to try to improve on those areas of opportunity that are a little weaker, but it's changed as I agree more to the fact that you need to continue to strengthen on the things that you are really good at. Acknowledge your weakness and be aware. Like, I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
You need to be aware of the things that you're not as good at. And that's, like you said, that's when you pull in those other resources.
Yeah.
It's no need for me to try to get better at something that I'm not good at. And that lessens the things I'm good at because I'm putting too much focus on that area when I can pull in a resource to do that. And I can continue to strengthen the things I do well. So I truly think that's the best approach to
Well,
take.
if society could just be more self-aware in general, it would be a better society. Yeah. There's a definite lack of introspection.
Yes.
It is. And when you're talking about teaching, with even teaching with the teachers today, I can definitely see AI taking over because not all teachers, but some teachers, you teach the way you learn. Yeah. But there's 4 learning styles. Right. So if a teacher in the classroom, you was using an example of you got 20, 30 kids in a classroom and the teacher only teaches one way, well, you're only going to get those students who learn that way that you teach. The other 20 or the other 15 that learn the other 3 styles. Right. So now they're behind, and it has nothing to do with them. It has to do with the teacher not being aware of the different learning styles. So I used to be a trainer in healthcare, and that was the biggest thing was and this is adult learners. So it's making sure that you're hitting all 4 styles. So you have the audio, the those that are visual, the analytical, and the hands-on. And you had to approach by your lessons, your curriculum that you're doing, it should, touch on all of that. Yeah. But to do that, you have to come out of your own comfort zone. So just because you teach, you learn a certain way, you naturally teach that way. But if you don't want to come out of that, then to me, teaching is not what you should be doing.
That's an interesting perspective too, because imagine a classroom where you all have the same instructor, but they're teaching in multiple different styles to multiple different students. So we're all receiving the same lesson, but we're all receiving it in the way that resonates best for us.
Yeah,
right.
That could be incredible.
And I used to always say, just have auditions to be a school teacher. It's really easy to get good teachers if you do an audition. You have to do a lesson plan and you present it. And I always felt like, especially in elementary, visual learning is just everything in elementary school. And I'm very dramatic. And so it was the stage for me. And so it really was. It was like, what am I going to do today? So, but it was not received well by administration. But it was received well by the students. And I would go to other people's classrooms, my coworkers, and it was so boring. Yeah. It was like you could fall asleep and you're teaching 3rd graders and they're like, and you're like, wake up.
For adult learners. So before I became a trainer, we had to do that. It was, we had to, we were given 3 topics to choose from, and then you had to present it. And you had a panel of people you was presenting to, and you was presenting you call it a lesson plan, but we had, we would kind of do a curriculum and we would present that. And you're teaching, and you had to, one of the things they were looking for, as we were talking about, you had to touch on the 4 different learning styles. And they wanted to make sure that you were energetic when you needed to be, where you were creating hands-on for them to learn and actually apply what you're teaching. So they're not just sitting there, you're not just reading through material. Right. And because some teachers, we've all had that teacher, you're in the classroom and all they do is a lecture the whole time. Yeah. And like you're just bored. You're sitting there and you're just like, you waiting for the bell to ring. Yeah. It was like, what did you gain from that? Yeah. But they did their part. They followed the curriculum as a teacher. Yeah. So it's like that minimum is all they were doing. And for the kids who do not pick up things easily, they were struggling.
I do enjoy a good lecture sometimes, though.
Yeah. I do too. If it's something I like.
If it's,
if I'm interested in it.
And that's the thing. I tell my kids, I say, I feel like you can do anything that you apply yourself to, but it's if you want to do it. Yeah. Like the difference between, we'll just use someone who's an entrepreneur and someone who goes into the medical field. The person who's an entrepreneur wanted to take that route. And I'm sure it was, ups and downs of trying to figure it out. And then the one who went into the medical field, they wanted to do that. It's not that one is smarter than the other. It's the choices that it's you make. Different personalities. Right. Yeah. But if you don't have a desire for that, then you don't go in that direction. And then also too, I like what you were saying earlier, you like to provide your daughter with the resources to have this, those resources allow for different options. Yeah. So you can see, I like this, or I like this a little bit, but I really enjoy this. Yes. And start applying more to that. And one thing I have a son and a daughter. a daughter and a son. I try to say it right because she's the oldest. My daughter and son. But I always say to them, just try stuff. You have no idea what you're good at until you just step into a lane and see what happens. And you 6 months to a year, like you don't enjoy it. Take another. I said, right now you're young. This is when you need to be out there trying stuff. You don't want to be 60.
Yeah.
And
yes,
try
you
to
do. Yes, you do.
I want to be 60, there's no time.
Trying everything.
Well, I think with a longevity focus,
it's
like
never ending.
Yeah, with like this shift though to the ability to live longer. Like I almost feel like we're gonna have. What I'm thinking about is during this phase of my life, I may run a 20-year phase where I decide to focus on something else, right? And then maybe another 20-year phase because everybody thinks, especially when we're young, we think so. Like this week, this month, this quarter, right? Next year, it's hard to take yourself out. When I graduate college, right, or when I do this, my life is going to change when this happens. I'm starting to go. Maybe these next 2 decades, I'm going to focus on this, and then I may hit 2 decades where I want to get passionate about this other thing, right? So if we start thinking about it from that other angle, it kind of becomes interesting to me.
Also, when we were kids, though, 50 was old.
It was.
I'm 42 now. I feel young.
I know. I'm with you, but I'm one too where I like what I was just saying because I'm one who I don't like to create any. I always say the only limits we face are the ones we create, and so I don't have a ceiling. I don't have any limits. And I'm one who try to stay out of my way because I feel like the biggest obstacles we face is ourselves. Yeah. And if I can get out of my own way, there's no telling what I can do. So I've gone through so many different changes from I was where when I graduated high school, I went straight to college and was like, I don't like this. Left college, not that I didn't like it, but I was not sure what I wanted to do with my life.
Right.
And I didn't want to waste time in college. So then left that, went to the military. I was like, I don't want to do this for a career. Went to the fire department, did that for a little bit. And then I say a little bit, I did 10 years.
I was going to say, you did more than a little bit.
And then I was
decade.
Like, I don't want this anymore. I'm going to go back to school. I want to go into corporate America. And did that and ended up getting my master's and everything. And now I'm taking a new journey where I'm like, okay, I don't know if I want to work for anyone anymore.
Yeah.
And so
what do you do now?
Well, I'm still in corporate, but I'm slowly kind of getting out of that. So I'm a program manager.
Okay.
And it's just where I can tell, because her and I had a conversation all the time, especially with her being an entrepreneur. We have and I've done consulting work.
It's interesting to watch,
but
transitioning.
Right, and it's just coming out of that, and it's like, having a goal of being a VP of a company, and then you're like, why do I want to put all of that in for someone else's company? Yeah. When I have the understanding, the knowledge, I have the experience, I have all these things that I can apply for me. I can invest in me to that same level. And now that's where my mind is at. And now is navigating out of that and taking that new journey, that new step, and sharing that with my kids. So I'm one where I don't think education is the only way to be successful. I just think that's one lane that you can take. And both of my kids, extremely smart. Like me, it's funny how all of us, school was easy. So it was the same way. I realized early on I could barely do anything and still make a C. Yeah. And it was like, wow. So that's how I took it. And I was trying to make sure my kids didn't take that approach because school was easy for them. Yeah. And they were both really, really smart. And neither one of them went to college when they graduated high school, at least not yet. Yeah. So
it's early. They're not in that phase yet.
No, they still. My son is 19. My daughter is 23.
And I don't. And I'm personally, I'm here with college. I don't know.
Yeah. Especially today. Yeah. With the access to information that we have.
Yeah. And see that too. In colleges, the state colleges, they're built, the criteria and everything that they have is so they can be certified within the state. So that's why the first 2 years are
the basic curriculum,
right? For the credentials they need just to be a university. Those first 2 years is just that's why everyone is taking those same classes.
There's also a big money racket between the universities and the banks. That's a big problem. Yeah. That's why the tuitions keep going up because they're making a fortune off of it.
If I could have skipped
student loans,
high school, went straight to an Ivy League education, that environment, an Ivy League, not from the cost standpoint, but from the quality, right? And that true higher level. If I could have went, I feel like I love that intellectual space. But how do you do that without going through all the rigmarole
That's the thing. It's like that. There's all the requirements
to get to that.
To get to that.
And really,
I was like you, masters. When I went into the master's program, I love that more than any other part of the schooling, from undergrad and high school and everything, because it was so geared to just that.
Yep.
And mine was business management, so it was. Everything was just for that. It wasn't no electives for this.
Yeah.
It was none of the bullshit.
Yeah,
you know,
that's what I wanted to get rid of all the BS. I'm done with this. But because you become so focused on the thing that I'm interested in, and I could and you excel.
I wish I would have enjoyed.
It was so much better.
My master's. Well, I didn't, and it's not mine because I quit it. I was like, I'm already a master.
There you go. Hey, I got an MBA, mega bank account. That's what you got to say. That's what you got to say. I used to say that before I had one.
Okay, I'm gonna speak it into existence.
Yes. But
I think education is good if you know what you're going for. Like if it benefits your goals, it's good. But I think you should wait until you know exactly what you need to study or focus on if you need it.
It took me 11 years before I went back to school after I graduated. I went for a year, left, and tried all these other things, and then found my way back around. But I was clear on what I wanted to do. During that.
By that point, that was what it took for me. It was like a thing had to go off for me to choose. It's amazing. It's like people that, and this is maybe not as related as I think it is, but people that will blow their money on anything that they want. It's easy to justify a thing that they want, right? It's $1,000, $1,500 on a phone, they'll do it. $1,000 to educate themselves, to buy books, audiobooks, podcasts, programs, whatever, something they need, subject they need to learn. They're not spending the $1,000, right?
I know.
Right. So something they need, something that benefit and enrich their life, right? They won't spend it. Yeah, PS5. Oh, I'm on it. I'm on it, right? And so, like, that's for me was what it was with education. For me was figuring out that I wanted it. Yeah. Like when I wanted it, the world couldn't stop me, right? Like, but I had to get to that point. I was like your 6-year-old when he basically was in kindergarten. It's like, I'm not taking a test today. I got to that attitude, except it was just me at college. I was like, I'm not doing this. I got to it in high school.
Well, when I was a kid too, I kind of was.
That's why I was like, he was real early. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
When I was a kid, educationally, academically, I was on my own in a lot of ways. You know, I just had to sort of figure it out myself. And I mean, my parents, I had parents, and they were hardworking parents, blue collar. You know, they loved me, but they didn't put a lot of investment into my education or academically. So it was kind of something I had to navigate on my own.
And that could be difficult, you know, because you don't have someone kind of on your back about, you know, did you get your homework done?
Well, if I had bad grades, they'd beat my ass, and I would do great the next.
He got that.
That's one thing I don't get on them. If they have a bad grade, I'm like, oh, it's not gonna make or break you.
Yeah, I don't spank my.
I don't know if that's good or not, but I'm like, I think do better.
The only thing I can say is if you want to. What I try to relate it to is if you want to be successful in life, some of these things that we may not like, we have to do the basics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a stepping stone. So we got to make sure we have at least a general knowledge of these things. And then I let them focus way more time on things they're energetic about.
Yes.
Well, I tell Isla, my daughter, I tell her, I say, look, you can do the fun things, but you have to do the difficult things first.
Yeah.
And the difficult things are the things that are worth doing. Those are the things that you will enjoy the most once you learn how to do them. And they'll be the most rewarding things. The easy things are just wasting your time. It's just like an addiction. You know, it's something that's just pulling you away from having to do difficult things. And like he and I, we fill our lives with difficult, challenging things.
It's nothing like coming through it. I'd tell anyone, that's the one thing, like even with work, with as far as just going up the career ladders, because I enjoyed the challenges, and it's nothing like meeting a challenge head on and coming through it, and you seeing the journey, and you're like, oh, like that feeling. I love that feeling. I'm
gonna call you out. Is it going to be a 5-year transition to entrepreneur, or is it going to be a decade? What do you think it's going to take? Because I got to tell you, I know a few people that got one foot in and one foot out. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Your kids are old enough. I'm assuming you're still subsidizing their life, or no?
No, not now.
So that's gone.
Yeah,
You got
so
you got
I
a girl you're
push.
keeping up.
I push hard. No.
So I
But
mean, I'm hearing the right things. Already.
Yeah. And that's why it's been on the table where I've been making moves to get in that direction. And her and I had some conversations about it, and it's for me. I don't like a safety net. I like to step right in,
Burn the ships.
because then I have to get this going, and I work best like that.
So there's a general, and I cannot.
Pressure is, I love it.
Yeah, I cannot remember this to do it justice, but there's a general that he had they took their ships. They had 400 men against 4,000. This is a famous story, and Cortez, yeah. So overnight,
Great guy.
one of the groups, they left, they fled, and they took a ship and they went back home. And so Cortez burned all the remaining ships, and everybody's all in uproar, like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? How are we gonna get home? And he's like, if you ever want to see your family again, your kids, you ever want to get home, we're gonna go home on their ships. And his less than 400 took on 4,001, and they did. And they took the enemy ships, and they went home. Right? You can't have one foot in, one foot out. Yeah. You got to burn the ships, right? You gotta burn the corporate ship you're stuck in, right? And give yourself no choice but to succeed. And that's hard to do if you got kids you're still taking care of, or you got a woman you're still you got a spouse, a significant other. You got other people that are depending on you financially.
That's hard.
It's hard to do, but. Sounds like some of those things are gone.
Those things are gone, and that's the conversation. And it's funny you say that because we have that conversation.
Yeah.
Where I talk about that like it's just me now, so I can really I don't have to worry about my kids. And the first thing you think about is healthcare, all those different things where you're with the organization.
Well, that's the first thing you think about. I had health insurance for 20 years, and I used to, and I own a life and health and P&C. I used to own an insurance agency. I think health insurance is a ripoff, but that's my personal. But you don't have to worry about it for your kids no more.
And I've had my own health insurance since I was 26.
Okay.
See, we differ on some things.
Entrepreneurial health insurance.
There is, yeah.
And that's when you was telling. I know we talked about that. Yeah,
it's just real expensive.
Yeah,
it is.
But I am like
especially
that.
Especially if you got kids.
Burning the ships. And
you should be able to, when you leave your job, you'll probably be able to switch to a COBRA plan for talk to a healthcare person, but 24 months. Like you could have some type of coverage when you leave. I don't remember what it is, but there is a transition product. But
I don't think you even need that now. I think you just switch over to Blue Cross or whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
You just pay your overpriced rate.
Overpriced.
Just go ahead and do it. You're going to do it anyway, right?
I pay $2,000 a month for my family.
Yeah, I don't pay. I don't have health insurance for me, my kids, nobody.
Yeah.
Here's why. Because mine's like mine's like $50K a year, a little less. It's like $46,000 a year if I was going to do it, and it didn't used to be this much. But what I looked at was I just take and pay myself the health insurance.
Okay. And
then I've got the money in account. Like I've built up for years. We don't go to the doctor, right?
Health savings.
Every child I've had is usually between $10,000 and $13,000, right? You just pay for it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly what it is. It's a health savings account.
Yeah. So I just save my money and then I pay for my stuff as it comes up. Everybody's like, what do you do? Like, my son has an annual trip to Duke. We just did it actually on Monday. Right. And that visit with that specialist that he's been going to since he was 9 months old, annually, let's say it's $2,000, right?
Okay.
It's still less than my health insurance would be, right? And then, any injuries, any other thing like speech, PT, OT, things I've done with my children, other things, like I just pay it as you go. Yeah. Have a conversation. You self-pay. And actually, when I self-pay, usually the bill is 40 to 70% less than what they bill the insurance companies. Yeah. Wow. It's a racket, right? So it's like, so for me, I'm just like, all right, if my insurance was going to be $2,500 a month, I just say, okay, I'm going to set $2,500 a month. And then at the end of the year, I got $30K sitting aside. Right. Because
like you say, you're not going.
And then you go, well, what happens if you have a major catastrophe? Okay, well then get a catastrophe plan that kicks in that has a $10,000 or $25,000 deductible that's not designed to go to the doctor. Right. It's just a what if, right?
Yeah. You get this. I think that's a supplemental plan.
Yeah, something. Yeah. So like for me, that's the. Now maybe I'm gambling. That's a personal risk, right?
Life is a gamble.
But yeah, exactly. living is it, right? Yeah. So, but I'm, if you're an entrepreneur and you're just starting out, and you're trying to make it, and the next thing you know, you're paying for health insurance, you're paying for this, you're paying for that. Like, I'm not telling people to break the rules. What I am saying though is, if you're just starting out and you got nothing to lose, you will go bankrupt faster as a business by trying to do everything perfect.
That's true.
If you're going to cut corners, you gotta cut them in the beginning when you can afford to cut them. When you can't afford not to cut them, rather. Right. So like now you're in a different situation. You're in a mature place in your life, but at the same point, if the very first thing you do is pick up massive expenses across the board before your business starts generating income, right? That can be the downfall of you before you get started too.
But also, if it's just you and your guy, your insurance isn't going to be that expensive. It'll be probably $4 something a month, $450 a month.
Okay.
Even just a regular policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his plan is, I would do what he's doing, but I have a prosthetic leg, so I use a lot of my insurance. I use about all of it. So
yeah. So for him, it may be a break even.
More ideal.
Go back and pull your records. A good way to indicate it, tell yourself, is go check and see how much your payment was, how much your Achilles tendon, how much your knee, your shoulder. Go back and look at how much that was and what years, and then add it up and go, okay, well, if I'd had to pay for all this, now the question is, could you have paid for it, right?
Yeah. During those times, when I did my rotator cuff, no, I couldn't have. I was paying out. I was early 20s or mid 20s.
Yeah.
So no, but outside of the surgeries, I don't go to the doctor for anything. It was just those two, and one was workers' comp.
Yeah.
So
doing what he said, having a plan, an insurance policy.
Get you like a catastrophe plan that kicks in for emergencies with a health savings account, and then bank the difference. So if the premium is supposed to be $500 a month, but it's $200, these are fictitious numbers, but so pay the $200 because you get the high deductible plan, the catastrophe plan, and take the other $300 and put your health savings account. You'll bank $3,600 a year, right? And if it's a $10,000 deductible, by the third year you get not even the third year, you got your $10,000 set aside.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you're saving the insurance premiums. But I'm not a big believer in insurance products, but
and he used to be in insurance.
I still technically
So say it.
They're high commission. That's why I don't like them. Right. Literally, like a lot of people make a lot of money, and I think health insurance is already ridiculously expensive. I don't. It's not an Obama thing or a Trump thing or a Biden. It's not a political stab. Health insurance is super expensive, and one of the reasons it's expensive is because of the tremendous premiums that are paid. Some of these commissions, that are paid, and insurance agents got to make money too. But to me, 150-200% of your annual premium as a commission to an agent, right? That's a problem, right? Like it shouldn't be so incentivized to have such expensive plans, right? There's and I get it. I'm kind of torn, right? Like, should the government step in and regulate that? I believe in less government regulation. However, if I can sell you a plan that's $20,000 a year and I can make a $30,000 commission off of you, or $15,000, like that's a lot. And I know people that are I know people in the insurance business that are driving Rolls Royces and Ferraris, and they're successful, but insurance is a lot of markup, a lot of commission. And I'm not dogging those individuals. Again, I got my life in health and P&C, and I've owned an insurance company. And it serves its purpose, but I think that health insurance and life insurance, those types of Medicare, Medicaid, those things should be treated more like auto insurance and homeowners insurance, where the commission should be brought way down. Instead of 150% of annual premium, maybe it's 10% of the annual premium, like your homeowners insurance is, 10 to 12%, like your auto that renews twice a year, right? So like, I just think that it's so crazy. And if we cut some of that out, the people in the insurance industry are going to hate it, right? But if you cut some of that out, it becomes a more affordable product. And everybody blames the doctors and everybody blames the health insurance companies for the high prices. But part of the reason there's high prices is there's huge commissions. And so I was on the other side of it, and I saw it. And I also saw the statistics about how 98% of people, this is an old statistic, 98% of the people never spent, right? The insurance companies spent less 98% of the time than what they collected from every individual.
I'm not surprised.
So only 2% of the time did the person that was paying the premiums actually get a better deal, meaning their premiums were less than what they spent, only 2% of the time. So for me, like, something went off. I was like, wait a second, why don't I just pay myself the premiums, right? And the longer I do that without an injury, the more I bank that money, and eventually you get ahead of it, right? And at this point, I mean, if I had a 6-figure thing pop up, it doesn't matter. I've saved that.
You're good,
right? So it's like I can insure myself, self-insurance retention. But you got to get to that point. So it's risky up front, but the deeper you get into it and the more you have your assets set aside, the less it matters, right? It's not even, I don't even think about it.
And health-wise, if you're taking care of yourself, it's only the things you can't, foresee. some type of accident, that's going to happen. But outside of that,
and I don't want to get into this, but if we want to be technical, like I've never met a doctor that you didn't have a conversation with work with you.
Yeah.
Think about it. I don't have health insurance, but I'll pay. I'll give you some money today. I can pay you every week and bring something every month. Yeah. I had a place because I went through some hard times. I lost everything, had to start over. And my son for years, and this place, it took me, I don't remember the exact time. It was 2 or 3 years. They continued to speech, PT, and OT for my middle son for years. And I made some payments. Sometimes it was $40, sometimes it was $100. And that number got big, what I owed them. And I squared it all the way up eventually. Right. But the point though is being open and honest and having a conversation, and them not realizing I was just trying to get one over on them. Yeah. And I paid it over time, and I knocked it out, and I still, highly recommend them and their services. And, it is what it is. I mean, I think there are other organizations out there too. And there's, hospitals will not report you delinquent most of the time as long as you're making some payment, right? They're not going to go against your credit. Like there were times in my life where I would send them $40 a month, and you're going to go, well, if you had health insurance, I mean, if I couldn't afford $40 a month, you can't afford health insurance either, right? Yeah. Right. So that was, because I've been an entrepreneur. So it's like, it didn't come with benefits. Right.
How long y'all been entrepreneurs?
13 for me. But I've done other things during periods where I had to. When I lost everything, I had to spend 8 months at another job just to generate enough revenue. And I told them that when I went into it, that my intention was just to start over again, which is what I did.
I started my first company at 22.
Yeah. He actually leased me one of my not first, but one of the earlier properties. Yeah. Showed me some properties, rather.
That's true, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was doing some property management.
Yeah.
Nice.
But, I've owned over 25 companies.
Yeah.
Yes, and you've owned
a lot.
50.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I mean, we have over, I don't know, we have probably 39 right now at separate entities.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's up there.
Yeah.
So, but no, yeah, I encourage entrepreneurship. I encourage you, whatever that means. And so you get the added benefit of, you understand hierarchical systems. You understand, because of the education, because of the corporate education you received, and because of the physical education you got from college, you understand that side of it. So you'll do well when you go to recreate systems yourself. You just the biggest thing is in my mind, do you have a repeatable process that's going to produce an outcome that you like?
Right.
And then you just got to get really good at repeating that process. So it doesn't matter if we're selling chessboards, right? I need to define my customer. I need to know who that customer is and how many of them there are and how many chessboards can I sell. And if every time I sell a chessboard, I make $43, and I know that 43 is my gross sales, and I need to have $100,000 in gross sales, I can divide the numbers out. Now I need to sell X number of chessboards, and then I'm going to divide that out and go, okay, I'm going to sell X number a week or X number a day, and then how much output do I have to do to make sure I sell that many? And then once I do all that math, because this is the only product I have, I know what I have to execute on to hit my minimum standard. And then I add another product, or service, right?
So you're not just depending on one product at that
right.
point.
Well, are you going to be product related or service related? What industry are you going into?
Right now, I was just looking at, because I've been doing like consulting work with small businesses.
Okay.
But I'm not still touching on it.
That's what I do. A lot of consulting.
Yeah.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, we own consulting companies. Yeah.
Okay.
You're in the right place.
Yeah, man, you can you can do very, very well. It just depends, but I mean, I don't know have you thought about hourly billables and all that stuff?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, you can do well. You've got to become a salesman though, because you got to sell your services, right? And you got to be able to market those services. So I think your upfront capital, when I'm thinking about it, and I don't know what work you've done so far, but when I'm thinking about it, I'm going, okay, I need to sell myself. I need to have my entity. I need to know who I am, who my target market is. You kind of identifying that's other businesses, right? You're going to identify problems in their business and help them overcome those problems, those challenges. So you need to come up with a mission statement or some type of statement that you can put out that shows that that's what you do. At that 30-second elevator pitch, you need to have all those materials, and you need to have a budget to market to these people. Join all the professional groups if you want. You can find the ones that work within your what your interests are as much as possible, and you just got to start putting yourself out there. But the real key is going to be getting people. You're going to have to be able to sell yourself and ask them to buy.
Yeah.
Right. You got to ask for the business. And because if you don't do that, you're going to add a lot of value for free and give them a lot of information for free without ever collecting. I've seen that happen a lot. So you just got to be really careful in the space that you're in. People, it's kind of like him with comedy or like other people that are talented. They ask them to perform for free, right? Oh, you're a comedian. Tell me a joke. Right. But you didn't buy a ticket, right? They're going to ask you to solve problems in their business before they ever pay you. So you got to be real careful you don't do that. That's from experience.
Yeah.
What was you about to say?
I do that to you all the time.
What is your company, by the way?
Well, I dissolved.
You know who you need to build.
Film was my company when we.
You need to bill her first.
I just recently started paying him. I was like, I'm a cash app you somebody, you know. But Paper to Film is when we connected. I had a company called Paper to Film, and that was a 8-week course. I would teach young youth to write a screenplay, go out and shoot, and we'd do premieres.
Oh, that's cool.
It was at the Cultural Arts Center, but during the pandemic, all that happened, so I shut that down. And
you was that low ticket item or high ticket item? How was that?
It was a hobby that turned into a business.
Okay.
So I had no.
I got you.
I don't even know.
I got you.
How it happened. I was just in it, and I had space at the Cultural Arts Center, and I had to start, hiring people to do the classes. It was all on a whim. I had no. When we reconnected, I had no business plan or anything. He the one who was like, "You ain't got a business plan? What are you doing?" Yeah. So once I left out of that, I had just made a name for myself, and people just contacted me to continue doing production work. So right now, my company is Tiffany SpeaX, and they will fly out. My last gig was Atlanta, and I did help do a pitch deck. I got paid to do that. And then like some shows in Denver, Colorado, they flew me out to help on a up and coming series called Starma. So it's really just me doing that. But when I was really into entrepreneurship, right now I'm kind of foot in the corporate door and out because I do have 2 kids, and they was telling me I was spending too much time away from home because I had products as well. So I would sell products at vending markets. I would have my table and I would make my products and sell it. So I was like entrepreneur everywhere, doing production work, selling my products.
More like an artist entrepreneur.
Hosting events. People would contract me in to host events and things of that nature. So I'm everywhere, and I'm an artist, and I like being everywhere. But then he comes along and he structures me. It works, and I do see how it's more beneficial to have structure. But I just don't. I don't want to do it. So I'm willing to pay.
You got a partner with somebody,
Well, you're not far from being able to have an AI assistant that'll do all this mundane stuff for you.
So that's the thing. What I would do too
find
is
that more information.
It'll be soon.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can use it now. So
So my entrepreneurship is not. It's really.
I think it's more than it's better than what you think it is. I think you hit the nail on the head for what an entrepreneur is, especially when they're trying to figure out that thing that pays them, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because that's what it's about. Entrepreneur is this.
Yeah.
It's whatever. It's everything, anything, and all things. Right, like that's the key. That's also the downfall of it if it's not careful.
Lots of peaks and valleys.
Yeah, a lot of peaks and valleys. But then what happens is many times people will find a thing that pays them, and then they decide to jump to something else to make this other thing work, and they forget about the thing that pays them.
And that's what I used to get on her. I told her she was spread too thin. Taking on too many projects, and then just looking at it, I was like, what is your end-to-end process of things you're doing? And then identifying where the gaps were within, and then determine, okay, what's the controls we put in place to mitigate them, just all those different things. And I was telling her, because I was running into so many people coming up with small businesses, but they had the idea, the concept, but they didn't have the infrastructure and the way of building it so it could be, so it could last and it could actually make money.
People always have that euphoria of the instant thing, the idea that they can do better than somebody else. And I like that because you've identified that there's a problem in a business, an ATM, a restaurant that's not, and maybe you're passionate about food, right? And you eat at a restaurant that's doing well, seemingly doing well, and you think I can do better than this. Look at all these things that they're messing up on. The problem is that that euphoria runs out pretty quickly when the reality of running a business and running a restaurant and all the things that go along with it kind of hit you. But then secondly, many people will take and be successful, have a moderate level of success at something and then start something else. But you got to get so successful and so dialed in at this business that it runs without you, right? Because otherwise you just own a job, right? You're not a business owner. Yeah. You own a job. You're an employee. You just happen to own the business, right?
As an artist too, though. I'm an artist too.
Yeah. So you are the product if you're an artist, right?
Yeah. On those things.
Yeah.
But the things that don't require you, you should find ways to delegate.
Yeah. So if you don't run your business and then you can't step out. Like if you don't run the business in a way that you can have controls in place, checks and balances, right? If you can't do that, you're not allowed to start another one, because if you do, this one fails.
Yeah.
Right. And people are very, very guilty of that. Right. And that's very common in entrepreneurship. It's very common in the business world. So for me, like, you got to get this thing that's paying you dialed all the way in, and you test it. And if it doesn't operate without you, you really don't have a business.
Well, I like that you said that with the company Paper to Film. I ran that I was co-owner for 8 years. And when I was thinking about stepping away, yes, I had instructors in place, but my hands were so much in the foundation of it, like the curriculum and making sure this instructors do the lesson plan. I could not walk away. You know, I had to be there because my business partner at the time, that wasn't his strength. It wasn't his strength.
Yeah.
But I was feeling the pull to try to do something else.
Yeah. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
You just got to know that, hey, I'm going to end this thing. This phase of my life is gone. I'm going to start this other thing.
It was hard though.
Yeah,
it was like, oh God.
Yeah.
I remember that, because that's when we had the conversation. I was like, you need to outline roles and responsibilities for the two of you.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's important. You're going to do well. What you're going to have to figure out is how, and I'm sure maybe you already do, but identify the client, sell yourself. And some of the things I was just thinking about, right? Like if I was going to bring you on, because the very first thing that people are going to start to do, they're going to try to hire you, just so you know. Like you're an entrepreneur and you're solving problems and you're a consultant, and they're going to try and hire you to come work for them. They're going to try and make you an employee again. So just be careful of that. So what you need to know is what it's going to cost. Like, what are the onboarding costs for this company? You ask those questions first. You set yourself up. You let them answer the questions. So what is it? What do you put into onboarding your new staff members? What do you put in? What do you account for this process? How long does it take for them? Does it take them 6 weeks for them to be efficient, or is it? Do you have your employees here at this type of business for 6 months to a year before they become independent and they really add value to your company, right? So you start to add all these things, and you go, okay, well, it sounds like to me that you've got $150,000 a year in this position and this type of employee, and it takes them 6 months to a year to get up to snuff, right? So making a mistake is a six-figure mistake, right? And this way, when you pitch to them, whatever your pitch is, but it's, hey, I'm going to sign up. I'm going to 200 hours at this billable rate, and it's going to be this. And let's say you show them a $75,000 bill, right? But you've already identified that this is a six-figure a year problem per employee, right? So what you have to do is let them kind of answer their own questions and lead down this path, and then that creates value for you, because if you can solve this, you're pointing out something that they're not aware of, right? It's right in front of their face. They got a big issue with turnover. They got a big issue with this, and you got to take that and monetize it and put it. Because business owners, you need to show them the money, right? Who's got my money? And right now, these employees, this turnover, this problem, this challenge is taking a big part of my money, but you have to make it obvious to them that that's the case. Yeah. And you can help solve it, and this is your fee to solve it.
And you might be able to reverse engineer their business. Like say, you could draw out a description of what their business could be and what it would require to be at that level. And then just reverse engineer
their future state, so their current state, and then their future.
But if you draw it out too well before you get the contract,
then they're going to take that.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So this is the key: is you got to ask questions, you got to try and build value without giving them all the solutions, because you can't. It's like this: if you flip to the back of the book and you have all the answers to the test, you could pass the test. But if the moment I switch the order of the questions, you can't pass the test. And in life, the business, things aren't orderly, and things come at you at different times. And you may solve it for them this once and point them in a different direction, but they didn't learn the fundamental lesson. You didn't change the fundamental thing that was wrong with the business, right? Whatever that was, whether it was a hierarchical system, whether it was a training, whether it was delegation of duties and responsibilities, right? They never really addressed the source of the problem. And so you just got to be careful you don't enable that, right? And because people are going to ask you to do a lot of work for free, you're going to oversell yourself in the beginning, right? Yeah. Because you feel like you have to, and you give away way too much, right? And then they try to implement those things, but not properly. And then the other side of this is they're going to try and hire you and make you an employee. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. You can hire me as a consultant by contract, and I'm willing to commit to you X number. And it's hours, or if you want you want me 40 hours a week in your building, that's fine. We're going to call that 250 hours a month, right? I will keep you as my only client, and I'm going to commit to it for the next 3 months. I'm going to commit to it for the next clear start, clear finish. Mm-hmm. Right. We're going to reevaluate at the end of this, and this is my fee.
And so,
but don't let them make you an employee. You don't want the benefits package. No. You don't want to be onboarded. You're a consultant, right? And do that. And I know companies that are billion-dollar companies that highly successful consultants have done that. And I know some that got $2 million for 6 months worth of work.
That is amazing.
Right. And
how do you get your clients though?
That's going to be the challenge. I think the networking and identifying. So you got to cast a broad net, but you need to be highly focused on what type of.
Well, you already have expertise in certain. You both have expertise in certain fields. Yeah. So that's what you would focus on those, but you would approach those businesses or those entrepreneurs that are already in those fields that need help.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of the production companies that I run into or in the movie industry or in TV industry, they all need consulting.
Yeah.
It's just everywhere. And
honestly, most businesses need it. They won't pay for it. Yeah. They won't pay.
So that's what I try to pitch them. Every time I'm like on set or anything, I'm like, have y'all thought about consulting?
So for me, like if I was going to go out and chat, so that my initial conversation, what I tell people is like, what's your hourly rate? And I'm like, it's so much more complex than that. But you want me to come show up and chat with you for an hour, and if we don't have a mutual, we don't have a business thing that we're doing together, we don't have a challenge we're solving together, it's $5,000 for me to show up.
Right.
That's not $5,000 for the day. That's the first hour. We'll go from there. Right. I don't want to take clients on. Mm-hmm. I don't need to, because I'm really great at solving problems, but I'm guilty of this too. I try to solve a whole lot of things without getting paid. Right. Mm-hmm. And you just got to be careful of that. Yeah. Right. Because somebody needs to finance this car. I can solve everything, right? Mm-hmm. But you can't do but so much. So you got to make sure you got to figure out. This is something I used to struggle with. You got to get paid, and instead of getting paid hourly in exchange of my time for your money, I would rather take equity in a deal, and we find something we can do together, and we can both get paid over a long period of time, right? So my thing started to change, right? So you just got to figure out how you navigate that, but make sure you're getting paid.
Right.
I don't know what you make a year, it's none of my business, but take that number after tax, because as an entrepreneur, you get access to a whole lot of tax breaks that you don't as an employee. An employee, you pay taxes first, you live off what's left. As an entrepreneur, you pay taxes on what's left. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to change that mindset up. So you don't have to make the same as an entrepreneur as you do as an employee, because you're getting more of those dollars up front, right? It's a slightly different thing, but you need to figure out what your exit number is. And you're going to say, hey, I need to make this a year. And I'm going to challenge you to say, no, you need to figure out how to make that in the next 4 months. Whatever that number, your annual number is, you need to be saying, hey, how do I make it in 4 months? Now, the reality is you're probably not going to make it in the first 4 months, but you probably make it in the first 8. But you're going to set yourself up. I'm going to do these activities. I got to do this much of this to get it in 4 months. And if you do those things, because you're going to miss a lot more shots in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Right? So your first 4 months, you're going to make a lot of pitches that you don't close. But the second 4 months, you do the same number of pitches, you'll close a higher ratio. But whatever your annual goal is, you gotta take that and say, I'm gonna do this in 4 months. Okay. And you go, how do I do that? Pick a number, 100 grand, 200 grand. What's the number?
Let's say 200 grand.
All right. So now, how do you make 200 grand in 4 months? It's $50,000 a month.
Right.
Right. What's that? 12.5 a week.
About. Yeah.
So how do you make 12.5 a week? How much are you billing yourself an hour? And how many hours you got to bill weekly, right? You see what I'm saying? That's the way you got to really. How many clients do you have to get to get to that number? And what services? And it's like, if you're charging hourly, then it's a simple formula.
Right.
If I'm X an hour and I need to make 12.5 a week, right? Then I know how much I got to charge per hour. But not all things are created equal, right? Let me ask you a question.
So do you put in create like a SOW and like a statement of work?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question though, real quick.
Yeah.
You got a big problem, and if I solve it, it's worth millions of dollars to your company. Do you want me to solve it in 5,000 hours or in 5 hours? I'm asking you, so you got a problem in your company. If I solve it fast in 5 hours, you're going to make $10 million extra. Or if I chose to solve it in, say, 5,000 hours, but you're still going to make the money, but you're going to have to wait 5,000 hours. Which do you prefer?
Yeah, it's going to be the 5 hours.
Right? So do you want to pay me to be efficient, or do you just want to pay me to solve the problem at my pace? So here's the other thing that comes in. Okay. Do you want me to bill you for 5,000 hours, or do you want me to bill you at 5 hours and be efficient? But my 5 hours is going to be, I'm going to solve this problem, but it's going to be $75,000 to solve it. And it doesn't matter if I solve it in 5 minutes or 5 hours or 50 hours, but I'm going to solve it. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to solve this problem for you. Right? So this is the other side. You got to be willing to switch. So some things it's an hourly thing because there is a level of work and a level of follow-up that you're going to have to do.
Right. To get to where you can solve. Yeah.
Right. And you're also going to have to hold people accountable within that business and help do that. Those are hours. Those are hours for dollars, right? Mm-hmm. But then there's also, hey, I can solve this problem in your business, and it's going to make $1 million impact to your business. And I can probably do it in 20 hours, but that's irrelevant. I'm not going to charge you hourly. I'm going to charge you $50,000 to do this. And I'm going to work with every department, every employee, every single person you make available to me. We're going to put these systems in place, and I'm going to hand walk it through. And then we're gonna check back in, and included in this price is this service. And you may be able to execute and do it in 20 hours, but it's irrelevant, right? So sometimes it may be where you get paid for a contract, not by hour, right? And getting good at that is really, really, really get paid, right? So you're like, well, who would do that? And it come back to that thing. Like, let me give you a different example. If it's going to cost $1,000 to fix your car, do you want it done in 10 minutes or do you want it done in 2 weeks? Right. Same $1,000, right? Mm-hmm. I want the guy that I can take the $1,000 and pick my car up same day. Yeah. But if I'm going to spend $1,000 and there's no motivation because you think you earned the $1,000 by taking your time, and I pick my car up in 2 weeks, it's the same $1,000. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to get a $50,000 contract, get the $50,000 contract and solve the problem faster. Right?
Get another one.
Go get another one.
Get another,
right. But you got it. So like there's levels to you got to get good at selling yourself. You got to get good at identifying challenges and problems and things you're going to overcome and how you're going to execute to do that without giving away too much. And then you got to be able to transition from just dollars in exchange for hours to I'm going to solve your problem and this is what I'm going to do it for. Right. So like there's levels and sometimes you'll bounce back and forth, but that's how you're going to get paid. Like if I was thinking, how do I make $200,000 in 4 months? Right, I would say, okay, how do I make $200,000 this next 30 days? Like I'm going to even take it to the next thing, right?
Right.
Now I need to make $50,000 a week. How do I do that? You got to solve big problems to do that. You got to have big clients, right? So like that's what you'll do eventually. You'll either create a team of people like you underneath you that you can hold accountable that are going to go out and they're going to be business consultants and you're going to hire them out. You know, you're going to do that, or you're going to figure out how to solve really, really big problems because you are the product.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, these are things to really be thinking about because it's all doable. You want to make $200,000 a year doing that?
And if you,
I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easy.
And if you're limited, if you're doing that well, and you're limited on time, because if it's all you, then there are things you could definitely delegate to make your time more efficient. But also you find other places to invest that money too, like real estate or something, something that has a good return that's also more passive.
Right.
So your money's being productive while you're being productive.
Yeah. And you can do it.
Instead of sitting in a bank account.
Right. Yeah, that's the worst thing you can do with it. Yeah.
No, man.
Definitely is.
I've said this before, but Robert Kiyosaki he's a little out there, but he's getting out there. But he said savers are losers.
Yeah.
And I think he's never been more right than he is today because you're trying to save something the government prints freely.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. And I think
the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah. So, but if you think about money as utility and it's only worth the things that it can provide, like the utility it can provide. And at your point in life, you want to enrich your life or enrich the life of those you care about. If that's what money provides, then saving it doesn't provide any of those things unless it gives you some peace of mind, and that's a false sense of security.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd rather own real assets. I like things I can touch. I like real estate. I like things because I get the personal enrichment in my life of that real estate, and then when I'm not utilizing it, it can generate a revenue without me selling it. That's a personal choice. But I would take, once you start making that money and try to find a place to park it, right, that provides utility and that enriches your life. And also is a hedge against inflation, because they're going to, no matter what president we have, on some level, they're going to continue to print money because we operate our country at a deficit. That's the way it works.
Yeah, we do.
And that's not going to change. So, which means they're going to continue to print more money over time, which means things got to devalue. And the dollar was designed to go down in value, right? And that's okay. We don't have to get upset about it. We just got to be aware of it. And you should understand that if the dollar goes down in value and I owe you money over a 30-year period, let's say a traditional mortgage, the money I'm paying you 30 years from now is not the same as the money today. So if I owed $1,000 a month today, is much less than $1,000 a month 30 years from now. Right. So I'm paying you back with deflated dollars. Because in 30 years, people will be like, well, your mortgage payment's only $1,000. Your mortgage payment only $5,000.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because the dollars have devalued. Right? So people fail to think about it.
It's also why you pay most of the interest up front.
That's right. That's true. But that people don't really think about that side of it. So you just got to, just how do I make revenue? How do I generate revenue? You're the product, right? In a consulting business, you're the product. So how do I perform? And then once you perform, what are you going to do with that money? And then what are your goals? You're trying to enrich the life of yourself at this point. You should be selfish. You've raised children, right? You should take care of you first, right? So what's going to make you happy? And then how do you enrich the life of those that you care about? So then to me, I would take that money that I'm generating and make sure I'm checking these boxes. And that's what I do. So that way I personally like waterfront property, whether the lake or the ocean, et cetera. And I, so that's what I acquire and I collect. But you got to figure out that thing that you like. So, and then maybe some people don't like those types of things. They like time. So then maybe you go, I'm only going to work 10 hours a week, but I'm going to have all this time with my family.
You can invest in stocks, stuff like that too.
You could.
Yeah.
I'm not a big stock fan.
Flowing.
Yeah.
You've made a lot of money in it though.
I've made a lot of money in stock. I'm just not as big of a,
it's not something you enjoy.
It's not something I enjoy. I don't like that it does so well.
Yeah.
Because it's not me.
Yeah.
So stock ownership in stock is
got it. Because I was like, you don't like it. Okay.
No, because it's
not you.
Passive.
Right.
It's as passive.
You like to have your hands in it.
Yeah, it's as passive as you're going to get.
It's a good place to park some money, though.
Yeah,
it definitely is.
Yeah.
The return in the stock market is watered down because you got to think everybody in the world is getting paid. Every expense is being that any publicly traded company's got a tremendous amount of expense. So by the time you get your return, whatever that return is watered down. Whereas you're the entrepreneur on the front end, you're going to receive the biggest return of your effort. Right. Yeah. But you can only do so many things. And just like you, as you start to delegate and create systems, those things cost money. Those people, those systems, those pegs you put in place to provide those products or services cost money. And the bigger your machine gets, the more expensive it gets to operate. Right. And the less of that money you get. And the only reason it works is because of scale. So if you get 100% of your efforts day one and your company goes 10x, but you only get 15% of your effort, you're still doing better because you're getting 15% of a much bigger pool. And if you look, when you get to a publicly traded company, some of them are operating on a 3 and 4% margin, but it's off a lot of volume, right? So I understand that. And so when I invest in stock, I understand that I'm getting a very watered down return and I don't see it as a direct effect and positive effect in my life. I don't correlate it as well as such, even though it is.
Right.
So I just prefer my lake homes and my beach houses, et cetera. I prefer things like that because I get the use of them as well. I also get a return that is at or above most stock, and my family gets that enrichment out of it. Right now, I have the added headache of actively managing these things. Right, so there is an exchange. Right, but if it was publicly traded, I couldn't just go to my beach house. Right, I would have to. If it was owned through a publicly traded corporation, and you were an investor or you were on the board, and I was just taking it upon myself to go use this beach house. Right, that'd be a problem.
Well, you do own a real estate company too.
I do,
and a property management company. So
which again, so the same thing as my expense. So I think that's the side is I like. You're going to figure out what you like. Stock works, right? Yeah. Stock works, and everybody points to Warren. And Warren Buffett's done an amazing job, but really Warren Buffett was a steward of his own money, but also other people's. Yeah. Right, that's how he got where he is. Right, he was managing other people's money and some of his own. But if you read his thing, I mean, it's just compound interest over time, and his fees compounded over time, and he's done very, very well. So the stock market works. I just don't like it because I don't feel like I have the level of control in the outcome. Whereas, with my other things, I do.
You do, yeah.
Now, we hit through phases of our life. I may not want that level of control and dependence on myself.
Yeah.
But when you start to generate money, you get to make those decisions. Like real money, you get to say, "Hey, I think I'm I'm going to try my hand at this beachfront management.
I think that's like the goal, to get to that point.
Yeah.
That complete independence.
I like it. There's some
independent
stress
freedom.
to it,
Yeah.
but
That's with everything.
Yeah.
being alive is stressful.
You get stressed working for someone else.
That's
So
for
why
sure.
not
Yeah, I don't
have
know how you do that.
stress? Yeah.
Now, I've had to do it during periods, and the problem is you work for someone else, you want to solve all the problems, but you don't own the company. So they'll let you
that's
solve what they'll let you solve, but you can only do so much
Yeah.
because it's not yours.
It's so funny. When I first started having these thoughts was as a project manager. So, when I first got my Six Sigma Green Belt certification, you start working these projects that you would lead, and we had to. Each project had to have a savings of a minimum of at least $750K annually. But you can do that with some process improvement, automation, just whatever it is that's going to solve the issues. But I don't get a percentage of none of that. And you get, as soon as you complete that project, you get another one. Then you get another one. And the company is saving all of this money quarterly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just get your salary.
Yep.
And that's it. And you start thinking like,
No, I agree. Yeah. So
what am I? I'm doing this
Undervalued.
for somebody. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing this for someone else, and
go
I
to-
don't get a percentage of.
there are
at
mom and
all.
pop companies out there that at 1 to 5 million a year, 5 to 10 million a year, 10 to 25 million a year. Like you're going to figure out your sweet spot, right? I think the 25 million a year plus, they're actively employing consultants. 1 to 5 million, they're not. They're just not doing it. You know, they got a gas station or 2 gas stations or 3. It's a family run business. The local laundromats.
Yeah.
They're not spent. Matter of fact, most of them are. I'm gonna use the word conservative. Extremely conservative. We're gonna use that word. They're very, very unlikely to utilize those services, but they are in the biggest need of it, and you can have a great impact on their business, right? So that's the key. It's like you got to figure out that 1 to 5 million, that 5 to 10 million, whatever your price point is, and maybe you want to deal with $25 million a year clients plus, right? I don't know, but when you go in and show that problem, hey, this is the net impact on your company. I'm gonna have quarterly or annually or whatever the number is, and here's the fee for my services to do this. I think they start to sign up all day long, right? So show me, and maybe I don't know what your billing method is. Maybe you want to pick up, maybe you want recurring monthly revenue. You want RMR. So you're going to say it's $40,000 a year. It's $4,000 a month. You're going to put me on retainer. I'm going to implement these things. I'm going to check back in once a week or once a month for X number of hours. I'm willing to be involved in this and this. I don't know. I would design a thing, right?
Right.
And you go, okay, well, there's $48,000 a year, and then go get 10 of those clients. It's $500,000 a year. Right? So repeatable, duplicatable process, and then scale it. And you go, oh no, $4,000 a month. Who's going to sign up for that? I mean, I would do it, but okay, do it for $2,000 a month. Right now, I need 20 of them to do the same number. Right? Do it for $500 a month. Right? So you see what I'm saying? Like, I think you got to find that. I don't know what your pitch is yet. You hadn't figured it out yet either, but it's there. You want to make $200,000 a year all day long. I just showed you make $500,000 a year.
Right.
Get 10 people willing to pay you $4,000 a month. 10 companies. Right? My average employee costs me $4,000 a month, and you're going to bring a lot more value to my company than my average employee does, right? So you just got to know that and go, okay, and be able to break it down for them, right? And then go find 10 companies that pay you $4,000 a month, $500,000 a year.
$500,000 a year.
I just blew you $200,000 a year out of the water,
Yeah.
right? And you can outsource
Great
a lot
information.
right? You can outsource,
I know.
but you can outsource a lot of the service. Some of the services you provide, all the tedious work of it. Right, you can have other people that you hold accountable in, reports and different things. Like you can do things yourself, that's fine. But then you can also, you've already got, I'm sure, but you build networks of people that can help you facilitate whatever services you're providing.
And pretty soon technology can do a lot of that stuff for you too. Yeah.
And that was part of the thinking too. Was of course, as any project manager, you're not doing all of it.
No, exactly. Yeah.
You're pulling in when you work for a company, you have a project team where you're pulling in SMEs from different departments. When you have those stakeholder meetings and you determine who's all impacted. So
I think you'll do really, really well. You just got to figure out that transition is going to be hard, and asking for the business and selling and being confident enough to. I don't know that you are or are not. I'm just saying, from personal experience, I can ask for millions of dollars and do it with a straight face. I can demand it actually, right? And be perfectly fine, right? If I perceive the value there, that hey, this is the only way that I'm going to take this on because it just doesn't make sense for me to do it otherwise, right? but you got to get to whatever that level is to where you can have that. So where
you want these companies reaching out to you,
yeah,
because you have a name.
And the reality is that if 10 clients pays you, let's say 10 of those clients in a hypothetical situation could pay you $500,000 a year. How many clients do you want? How many can you handle, really?
Right.
Right. And do you really, maybe, especially in the beginning, you want to be a boutique thing. You want to work with I only work with a few companies. I only run a few clients at a time. Yeah. And my number is $10,000 a month. Maybe you don't want to come up with a monthly rate, but I'm just saying, right? And then go get 10 of those. You know, it's 1.2 million a year.
I have a quick question.
I'll just, it's just to get your brain going, man. That's all.
Definitely.
How long did it take you to? I mean, because it seems like you're just experts from me just sitting here. How long did it take to just cultivate this knowledge? Did you go to? Because I don't think you went to school for it.
Yeah, no. I mean, like the education.
I have a degree in graphic design, advertising and graphic design, and I have a lot of education that's not towards a degree. Just I took a lot of different classes that were just interesting.
I think it compounds. We have these types of conversations. We have these types of conversations all the time, and we have for years.
We have tens of thousands of hours in business, though.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, probably 50,000 hours in business.
And then I read. Last year I didn't read but like 58 or 59 books, but I notoriously I read 100 books a year. I have for a long, long time. I went back and got an education, but again, that doesn't really account for a whole lot. I am at a level now that I do enjoy. I only at this point I'm barely going, but I am. But
constantly learning.
Constantly learning. So, and I don't say this in any other way, just to give context to it, but I'm at Harvard. I don't care about the school. I care about the level of the professor, the education, the conversations I'm having about macro, microeconomic, like the effect on the economy, the effect of printing money. Like when we really do like a really deep dive into the economy and or business, like as it affects, as I understand it. So got a strong background in business, but with a concentration in finance, and that carries over really well. But how much of that is the conversations I had with you? None of it. Right. The conversation I have with you is thousands of conversations, thousands between us, between other businesses, between people running businesses. This is like hands-on in a business, in a laundromat. Literally, I've been in a laundromat going through years of a guy's tax returns, for him to try and show me so I could get an understanding of where all their money's going, right? I've been in mom and pop's gas stations trying to help them on the ground floor, people that have inherited businesses that they don't know how to run or don't want to run, right? But their family, it was like this family business that supported the family and that they wanted their kid to run it. The kid had no interest in doing it and really wasn't paying attention. So I'm like, I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in those situations. And so does he. And so it's like you get the compound effect of that. And then you really get to a point where money is abundant. It's everywhere, right? If you don't believe it, just as you're driving down the road, just look at the houses. I don't care if they're $100,000 houses or $1 million houses. They're on every corner.
Yeah.
Right. I can count billions and billions of dollars in Greensboro.
Yeah.
Right. It's everywhere. So how do you get who's got my money? How do I get it?
Who's got my money?
Who's got my money? Right. You want $200,000 a year. Who's got my 200,000? And are you going to get it from one person or are you going to get it from 10?
Yeah.
Right. And 10. And if we're gonna be technical, I don't know the exact number, but it's not 20,000 a month. What is that? 17.5 a month. So I need 10 people paying me $17.50 a month. 10 businesses. I just like 10, but I mean, just get your mind going. One company will pay you $200,000 a year, but you lose that client. It's gonna take you a minute to find a second one. I like to scale things. So it's just stuff to get you thinking, but it just takes time. These types of conversations we love.
Oh yeah.
So on my health journey, he helps me. So he'll go walk with me, and we walk and we talk business.
We work good together too because he's a very analytical math brain, and I'm a very analytical visual brain.
We complement each other very well.
Yeah.
And we have
I'm an artist, so he's he's a creative guy, and there's an artist in there
somewhere.
But he's a musician actually. He can play piano and stuff. But he's definitely more on the analytical side, and I'm more on the visual, creative side.
Yeah.
And so it complements well.
So
and I'm good with structures and I can see like corporate structures and stuff like that really well.
Yeah, there are things that I really struggle with that in my life that I've identified, but I'm with you. I'm trying to solve these things, but not focus on these things, right? Like I put my effort and my attention on the things I'm that I believe that I'm great at, that I want to be amazing at, right? That I want to be the best at, right? Or one of the best at, right? So like that's the, if we start getting into my comfort zone, I excel. I don't care who I'm in. I don't care if it's my neighbors that are worth, I got $500 million neighbor, a $750 million neighbor. It doesn't matter. Like you put me in my zone with those people at that level, and I feel like eventually I'll rise to the top. But put me in something that's not my comfort zone, my thing, and I'm just listening. I'm not talking, I'm listening. And actually, when I'm around those neighbors that are, and these people in my environment that are more successful than I am, they're usually have got time on me. I'm listening too, to be honest with you, right? Yeah. They let me speak a little bit, but I'm doing a whole lot more listening because they're where they are for a reason. You don't get to that level in life typically by accident, right? Because there's a whole lot of ups and downs to make, $500 million, right? That you don't, unless you inherited it, and even then you still got to be a manager, a steward of the wealth, which requires some skill, right? If not, it's going to be gone. So like I try to shut up and just listen when I'm around them, but I have earned the right in certain environments to give advice on things that I excel at. And so like that's really cool for me. But when it doesn't, I don't speak. It's not my, matter of fact, I'm very quick to say that that's not my thing. And actually, I think this person is amazing. This is who we should use to solve this problem. So, I think that's cool, but it just takes time. But I like where you're at with it.
Yeah.
If you already got, and I don't remember all the corporate stuff. I do remember the Six Sigma. I do remember some of the, like the big, I don't remember, but like, if I'm not mistaken, you had to actually go to a training, like, right, to get,
the green belt.
Yeah. So I don't remember all of it, but I do remember it being a big thing, right? Yeah. So you're going to do fine. You just got to figure out how to sell your services.
And that's the part that stuck out a lot with me each time you said it.
That's gonna be the hard part.
That's the key.
Yeah, because if you can't do it, it's gonna be hard times.
Don't be afraid to utilize AI too. Check out ChatGPT or GPT-4. Bard.
I haven't done GPT-4, ChatGPT. Check that a lot. I had a friend.
And you get the paid version too. It's only $20 a month.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't messed with the paid version.
But it can write business plans and stuff like that too, and it can help you.
Gosh.
Yeah. Oh, it's
gonna get crazy.
It'll know more about what you do than you do, probably.
Yeah.
It's funny. You said when I first got introduced to it, a cousin of mine, my cousin's husband in Oakland, introduced it to me. He's not really a coder or programmer, but he's in the IT world. So he was talking about it. He was saying, it can write your code. It can, you can give it, you got to give it the details, and then they outline it. And for some of it, he had like a code written, but it just did it better.
Yeah.
And he was just like, wow.
It writes a lot of its own code. The code they use to develop it, it writes its own code. It develops its own chips.
Wow.
It's really amazing. Yeah. But it's all of humanity's ideas in one being. Mm-hmm. It's like an expression of all of our ideas.
I like it. I've tested it out. The first thing I did was test it with my knowledge and asking it certain specific questions. And it was coming right back with information and laying it out for me. And I was like, specific because I'm in healthcare. So I was asking specific things within healthcare, and it was just spitting it out. And
it's a good tool.
There's a lot of consulting in healthcare, by the way.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
And for one,
there's a lot of people in healthcare, too, that aren't good business people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the company I'm with, they are paying a consulting company that's on my team, that's with me.
Yeah.
But they are consultant outside resource that they brought in. That eventually I was brought in to take over from them. But before I came in, they were paying this individual. And when we have meetings, when we travel and everything, they're coming right in, being paid for all of that.
Absolutely.
And
a room and board. So
all of that.
So when I first, early on, a long time ago, when I was during periods where I was still trying to figure out, and this is before the internet, like it wasn't like today, right? This was 06, 07, 08. I was also very young, but I did not become an employee of the consulting company. I'm not going to name the name of it because they're still around. but I agreed to contract with them, and what I did was I sold them hard, and I kind of knew some of what I knew. And the guy told me, he's like, you don't know what you think you know. He's like, but I love the fact that you're confident enough to come in here early 20s, and I think I might have been 20 actually, and pitch it. And he's like, I think you're going to do well. And so we came up with a split. So I would work leads that they already had, because they've already got this big machine that's bringing in all these leads for businesses that need consulting. And that was some of the very first car washes, laundromats, gas stations, stuff where they would put me in with these businesses even at 20 years old. Now I was already doing other things. This is what the consulting side for me was, how I made some extra money while I was running my businesses, because I could do it on the side. That was my side hustle, right? Yeah. But so you could do something similar, but you just got to be careful you don't get the golden handcuffs from the consulting company. While I can guarantee you can make $200,000 a year for the consulting company, guaranteed. You can make $1 million a year as a consulting company if you work your way up. You're not going to like that life, I don't think. And it's not you owning your own business. If you can figure out how to do it yourself, you're going to have a lot more flexibility and still have the ability to make a great impact financially.
Okay.
But you could always go to one of them and spend some time with them, and you could really learn it in and out. But I don't think you're gonna like it.
It was just funny because I'm talking with the individual who's been the consultant in this country, and we had the same information, the same knowledge, the same background. She's a green belt, we're green belt, and the things we're talking about, the DMAIC methodology, methods, and going through all the different stages. And I'm just like, and they're paying you this amount to do.
It's probably ridiculous too.
And she used to always say, they could never afford to bring me on full time.
Like, absolutely. Actually, I can
and,
name a local company that's a multi-billion-dollar company that said the same thing too, and that's what I was telling you about, that $2 million 6-month contract. They tried to make this person their CEO. Yeah. He's like, nah, because he was a multi-million per year earner, and he just wasn't. He didn't want to go work for one company, right? He liked the flexibility that this offered, and he had all the high value clients, and he made millions of dollars a year. And he was kind of nomadic. He liked being in different and his work changing, right? He didn't like the politics that you get into from being the CEO of a publicly traded company or the CFO of one.
Plus, you're stuck in one place. You limit your learning too. You only learn what they're doing. You're not learning the whole industry.
I can guarantee you can do it. But that person that's doing it is doing it as an employee of a consulting firm. They don't own a business. Right. That's two different things. I have no doubt you can be a consultant. Where you have to figure out is, can you own a business that's product or service is consulting.
You want to be her boss.
Right? Like
Yeah.
Your step one is can you make money with you being the product and service? That's step one, which is you owning a job that you also happen to own the business. Step two would be, can you make that thing function at that level or higher without you being the sole product or service?
You duplicate it.
Which is the person running her business, right? The one that she works for, that's what they've managed to do. Right? So like there's levels. Once you get that level one of, hey, I'm going to get my X, which is, $200K a year, at some point, and you're going to scale that, and let's say you scale it to $1 million, at some point you may say, I want to be at $5 million a year. You're going to have to bring on other people, right? And then you got to figure out, is your process really duplicatable? And if it is, the scale will take place naturally, and eventually your greatest value will be holding others accountable rather than you being the product or service.
And then you have an option to sell that company to one of these other big consulting firms. You do something else.
One of my neighbors that I just recently had a great conversation with, this is just food for thought. He was not a great attorney, per him. He was not a great attorney. He wasn't overly talented, et cetera, but he actually came from a business family and was really good at business. And he got his firm and focused on recruiting great talent, and built up a firm and sold it. And his buyout was $150 million, and he sold his firm. And he's like, he never won any substantial case in court ever.
But he won.
Exactly. He won.
But he built a team of really high quality attorneys and built a firm and sold it. Because when you sell things, especially get to a certain level, you get a multiple of future earnings. Right. And so he was smart enough to know that. Right. So I think the thing is you can be an awesome consultant. doesn't mean you're going to be a great business owner, right? That's this part that you're going to transition to owning a job first, which great, good job. But then you got to figure out, can you transition to actually owning a business and the business function without you being the product or service? That's going to be the difference of whether you get to that next level, right? And then, personal opinion, by the way. It's all my personal stuff, but
I completely agree with it though. I'm just looking at it.
Hate to have to wrap this up. It's
sorry guys.
6:30.
No, it's good. It's good.
It's been a pleasure having you guys in.
I've enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I definitely enjoyed it.
Because I want to get to the next level. I'm like, okay. I want to build the business and sell it and go to
There you
something
go.
else.
And do another one.
Because I get bored really easily.
I agree.
And that's why I jump projects to projects, is because.
I liked your original thing, by the way. That's why I asked if it's a high ticket item. Because real quick, because let's say you got 10 people taking your it was a screenwriting.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm thinking about the multiple there, but you probably just weren't charging enough because you said community center, which means it's more outreach, doing for the public good.
Getting a lot of grants.
A lot of grants. Yeah. So but I like that's a scalable idea, by the way. We'd have to have a different conversation, but you can scale that. You'd be surprised.
And you could also have a program where you have more affordable options for underprivileged kids or
well, what you do, you have multiple price points.
Yeah.
Target, you'd say you're going to take on X% of your business at this price point for these specific things, so that way you make sure you're checking that box or giving back to these communities or whatever it is you would like to do that's important to you. But then these price points are going to help subsidize that as well and allow you actually making these sales and doing these things are going to allow you to do more of this thing that you like to do.
Right.
But
Oh, wow.
I love scalable ideas because that's where you get your real money.
Yeah, and I didn't have any competition. I had drama kids, and that was a drama program, and I was the only film program targeting teenagers at the time. So, and I loved it. I just couldn't. I didn't know. I couldn't leave it. I couldn't.
Yeah.
But I didn't know business at the time. So that's why it was consuming. But I did enjoy it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I enjoyed talking to you guys.
Yeah,
definitely.
How can people find you?
Oh, well, you want to give the spiel? You usually give the spiel on our show.
I do. You can find us at Broadbelt SpeaX on every social media. So Apple, Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and on IG. You can also find us Broadbelt SpeaX 03.
At gmail.com if you're doing the email address, but if you're doing the IG, it's
She's let me clear.
Let me go ahead and do it. It's
Clear
Broadbelt _speaks.
That's right.
IG
Okay.
page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your podcast is a video podcast too, right?
Yes, it's video on
and
YouTube
audio.
and then audio with Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify is video and audio.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you guys for
thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been
Awesome,
awesome.
Definitely.
We got the follow up when he makes the
Yeah, for
the leap
sure.
of faith.
Yes.
Exactly.
I have to let them know your
A lot
journey.
of food for thought.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Thank you guys.
All right. That was awesome.